Welcome to Someone Has to Be Brave. My name is Andrea. My moniker is the Boho Therapist. I am a licensed, clinically certified professional mental health professional, specifically a licensed clinical social worker, licensed independent clinical social worker who specializes in addressing trauma, who specializes in assisting people with the integration of information that happens as we get older and increase our vocabulary. I am the one who assists and enjoys assisting folks with integrating that, what I like to describe as a superpower and knowledge. We can absolutely utilize those things that were created to hurt us as magical wands that we use to slay all day, all day. We slay through this thing called life, this journey called life. So shout out to an amazing, dope human who helped me low-key minimize the need for an editor by hipping me to game and connecting me to a valuable resource that I'm using right now, a new microphone via my memo. So therefore, I will be posting post haste on my podcast, our podcast, because please send me your information, email me your information, your story, so that you too can come and express yourself. This is a space for you. But anyway, I want to spend a few moments before my day begins publicly apologizing to the offspring that I birthed, raised, loved, nurtured. I apologize because there were times that I absolutely did misstep. And how is that, would you say? So it's important to always remember that generational trauma lands, rests, connects, metastasizes within us, right? Because the body keeps score. Generational trauma is with us for up to 5. It's within family, human family lineage for up to 5 generations. 6 generations in mice. And now that I've been on this human journey for more than half of 100 years, shout out to a cousin who helped me to understand that, even though it hit me a little hard. Ow, more than half of 100 years? Okay, yes, more than half of 100 years. I have been able to bear witness to that fact being both a truth and a fact. And then, while I postured myself, which means intentionally guided myself towards the true and only north, which is to be the best human that I can be, especially to those that came from my womb. Unintentionally, I did some neglectful things, innocently. However, albeit innocent, it does not take away from the fact that it can be quite hurtful. And so we do ourselves a disservice when we do not communicate with healthy folks that can, or just let's just say this, with folks that can hold space. We do ourselves a disservice by not discussing some of our story with them. And here's why. We were created to be connected. We were created to be connected. So our original clan, CLAN, would be the family, our tribe members, our clan, our tribe members, our people, our person, right? Would all be those from which we were born, right? But what happens when you come from such viral, contagious, unhealthy, unfertile land that you do not have these types of relationships? What happens? Does that mean that you are not a clinical term? And please pause. Let's understand that I became that which I needed after engaging in therapy, which is something I knew I wanted to do because I wanted to be able to relate to my offspring. I became that which I needed. Why? Because when I would tell some of my family stories, my therapists would weep. And my ego was so fragile at that time that expression of sharing space was one that I found offensive. Not offensive in a you are doing me harm way, but in a way that it validated the experiences that I had were outrageous. However, it also reinforced that my story was too much. In addition, I have this awkward human quality of do no harm. And so, excuse me, if I can't help you, I'm not going to add to your pain. And so, having been an adult since I was a toddler, I still have a habit of taking on, and notice yourself in this. Please notice yourself in this. Please do not hear this as me talking about me, 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 me. No, I'm giving you a story until I have others that are willing to share their stories in hopes that you can relate, just like reading a book, reading an article, listening to a song, etc., etc., etc. So to have therapists who wept silently or just had tears drop, that would reinforce that I came from very ugly, meager beginnings, and not because of money, but because of dark souled people who had been hurt at some point in their lives, especially during their formative years. And as a result of that, they didn't know how to love themselves and dang sure didn't know how to love a plant, a roach, a flea, a tick, mesothelioma, the measles, mumps, and certainly not offspring or pets. And so my siblings and I bore the brunt of that. And so my mission on this planet is to give voice, to give words to those dark crevices with cobwebs and creepy bugs so that others are not afraid of them. And then they can face their own reckoning on period. So this is why I began this podcast with apologizing to the offspring that I placed in harm's way. I placed them in harm's way by allowing them to be with relatives who had shady pasts, relatives who, as adults, touched children inappropriately and all other things inappropriately. Now, did that happen consciously? No. Let's shift the phrase not to hurt people hurt people. What if it is unconscious people hurt people? So because I was unconscious about having been touched inappropriately or having heard that this relative touched someone else inappropriately, because I did not allow myself to expand and receive their pain, I did what most do. I contracted and constricted and didn't allow that to land in me. I made the situation unintentionally an other, when in fact it is a fact. It is a box that should be checked. So what if we had the hard conversations, even and especially when other people are denying them? What if when family members say, oh, bring that baby here, I want to spoil it? What if you say, no, thank you? Because you remember that their son or their daughter, who happens to be an aunt or an uncle or a cousin, couldn't keep their hands to themselves when you were a kid, or couldn't keep their hands to themselves when your father was a kid, or couldn't keep their hands to themselves. See where I'm going with this? Then we would no longer be unintentionally, unconsciously perpetuating generational trauma. And here's a thought. We often hear how folks in jail have no mercy upon individuals who have inappropriately touched children. What if part of the reason for that behavior, their response to having zero patience, zero tolerance, zero anything with folks who inappropriately touch children, what if because of them being incarcerated, which is a dark night of the soul, it's an opportunity where you have a lot of time to think and reflect. What if that is and crossing the road? What if that is where the majority of their lives also had a pivot? What if that? So, hope this was of service. I'm trying to get my game back up. Thank you for all of you faithfuls. Send a friend. Please, please, please connect with me. Share your story. I would love and appreciate some guests on this show. No intro, no outro, just me being me, neuro sparkly, neuro spicy, me. Thank you for your time. Have an amazing day on purpose, especially to annoy the piss out of people who have made it their business to cause you to lose sleep. Okay? Namaste. Peace.